Hello, and welcome to episode 144 of Design Curious Podcast. I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. Today on the podcast, I have Audrey Faust as a guest. Let me tell you a little more about her. Audrey is an expert CFO and money mindset authority who helps entrepreneurs create the financial strategies they need to scale their businesses for increased profit and growth. Through her unique blend of financial expertise and mindset coaching, Audrey empowers her clients to master their financial data with clarity and confidence. Her signature approach goes beyond numbers, instilling a strategic money mindset that fuels growth, boosts profitability, and enables entrepreneurs to make empowered, forward-focused decisions. Audrey's best-selling book, She Grows Rich, further explores these transformative principles, offering women actionable steps to become financial powerhouses. We had a really great conversation, and I think you're going to enjoy it, so let's get into it. You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Hi, Audrey. Welcome to Design Curious Podcast. It's great to have you here.
Hi, Rebecca. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yeah. Like I was telling you earlier, this is a great topic. I always love it when we visit this money mindset and just getting a hold of our finances, because I feel like it's a weakness for creative professionals. Have you found that out as well?
Absolutely, Rebecca. I work with a lot of creatives and I work with a lot of interior designers specifically. I like to say we all get into business because we have a gift, and your audience has a gift of interior design, which I personally do not, but we all have that gift, and whatever it may be, unfortunately, the finance stuff comes with it when you're running your own business, and nobody teaches you that. So that's why I'm here. I work with people one-on-one, and I also have a course. So you can understand the financial pieces of your business so you don't get it wrong or you don't end up in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really important. Since we talk a lot about careers on this podcast, let's touch back on your history and how you got into being a financial coach, and especially for our interior designers.
Sure. I've always been in the finance world. I have an accounting degree and an MBA, and I worked with small businesses pretty much my whole career. I really enjoy working with small businesses. At first, before I got into coaching, I was doing the done-for-you model, where I was fractional CFO. I had an accounting team, and we worked with multi-seven-figure businesses. Now, just recently, I sunsetted that side of my business and went fully into coaching. I felt like the universe had its own plan for me to go fully into coaching, because all of the businesses I was working with on the done-for-you side sold their business at the same time. It was really crazy.
Wow.
That's the goal, right? And I really saw the need in coaching and helping the smaller businesses, the six figures businesses, and understanding that financial piece, the ones that weren't big enough to hire a fractional CFO like myself and my team. And I really loved helping the smaller ones and helping them understand and overcome, as we were also talking about, is the money mindset is so challenging. Especially when you're small, especially your audience when you're just starting out too. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Great. So that's great. You followed all the arrows and pointed you to here. So now you can help others and just focus on that piece of it. So let's talk about, so why is it essential for designers and creatives to really combine their financial strategy with mindset to get sustainable business growth?
So, yeah, a few years ago, I became a certified neuro coach and I learned all the brain science behind our beliefs. I took that brain science and really niched down into the money mindset part of it. A lot of us were brought up around things that maybe aren't true to us now. So, for instance, there are things that we would hear our family say, like, money doesn't grow on trees, or my mom would always say, I work hard for my money. If I ever asked her for something, we work hard for our money, she would say about her and my father. Before I flipped the switch on that, interpreted that as you have to work hard for money, right?
Yeah.
And that leads to stress, burnout, workaholic. That is good for no one. So until I flipped that switch and realized there are other ways you can bring money in that you don't have to work hard for, until I flipped that switch, I was a serious case of workaholic.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. And you didn't realize that it was coming from these messages you had in your youth.
Yeah. And we get all kinds of messages. Maybe we get messages through the media on this too, that rich people are greedy, mean, selfish. There's all kinds of messages we get from our childhood and from the media. But the reason why the childhood messages are the most potent is because what I learned in the brain science part of my coaching certification is from age 0 to 7, our brains are wide open. We're sponges. They always say children are sponges. They just take everything in. It's because the subconscious part of our brain is open at that point in our life because we're trying to learn so many things. Like, think how fast we learn how to walk, talk, all those things. And those things need to be automated. Right? We don't have to think about the words we say anymore, usually. We don't have to think about brushing our teeth, tying our shoes, all of those things. It's because they're in our subconscious now. They just happen. Our brains are lazy. So it wants to automate everything. And if we hear a lot of things while that subconscious is open or experience, or maybe we have parents that thought about money, there's all kinds of things we could have experienced as a child around money because it's such an emotional topic that we interpret it differently. And your subconscious runs 95% of your thoughts every day, and you have 80,000 thoughts.
Wow.
So I like to say it's like you have a 7-year-old running you.
Uh-oh.
Right? Yeah. But unless you consciously make an effort to change those thoughts, it's going to sabotage you all along the way.
Wow. Okay. So we're all guilty of this, I'm sure. What are some ways then that the creative professional can overcome these programmed thoughts that we have as our 7-year-old selves?
There are a lot of ways. There's not just one way. If you download my 12 Secrets from an Expert CFO, my Profit Accelerator workbook, I have a audio in there that'll ask you a few questions to identify if you have any limiting beliefs and then how to change them. So the one way that I like to teach changing them is by repetition, just like learning to tie your shoes, learning to walk, learning to do anything. You have to do it over and over and over and over. And then your brain wants to automate it so you don't have to think about it anymore. So for instance, when I said making money is hard, how I flipped the script is first I found evidence of the opposite. That isn't always true. Then I said making money is easy. And I kept write it like on autopilot for 70 days. So 10 weeks, right?
Wow. Okay.
So if you continue to do that, say it, write it for 10 weeks, you will start reprogramming the neural pathways in your brain. So it doesn't believe that making money is hard or whatever your belief is.
Right. Yeah. Wow, that's really interesting. Okay, so that's a good little tidbit there. Even if we have already been able to identify maybe a hang up that we have, that we can reprogram that in that 70 days. So Really cool. Okay, so we'll definitely have a link for your downloads and make sure that people can access that and identify what they need help with. So the interior designer starting out with their business typically just loves doing the design, right? And so we don't know how to set up our books and make sure that we're profitable. What are the first steps that we should take to bridge this gap of just being the creative to actually being a successful business owner?
Yeah, great question. Well, the one thing, if you're very first starting out, that I always say is super, uber important is keeping your personal and your business finances separate.
Yes.
A lot of times people will get an LLC for their business. LLC is legally protecting their personal assets from their business.
Mm-hmm.
But what they do and they don't realize that's counteractive to that is all of a sudden they'll start paying their personal stuff out of their business. And when you start commingling that, you actually nullify the LLC because now you're saying, oh, well, like my personal, my business, they're all the same.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's the legal perspective of why you want to keep it separate.
yeah.
Have one credit card and one bank account. You can have more than one credit card if you're good with your credits, but at least have one designated credit card and one designated bank account for your business
Okay.
that you use. It's going to make tax time easier.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to make it easier for you to understand the cash flow of your business. And you may not be to a place where, if you're just starting out, where you're using an accounting software like QuickBooks,
Mm-hmm.
but if you just do those two simple steps when you're first starting out, have a separate credit card and a separate bank account, it's going to make your life so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's usually the first thing I tell people. And don't stick your head in the sand when it comes to the money that you're spending or investing. Of course, when you're first starting out, yes, you're probably not going to have a profit right away. You're going to be doing a lot of investing back in your business and things like that. Make sure you're looking at your investments, like what you're investing in. You're looking at your profit, and you don't get yourself into a situation where you're losing money.
Yes. No, that's important. Yeah. And a lot of times starting out, people say, oh, sweat equity, like you're just reinvesting all that money back in. And then you're not necessarily seeing anything come back to you, which can be discouraging. How long do you think typically you can expect that to run before people would likely be taking on some money home to see some benefit of having a
You
business?
do have to give it some time, right?
Yeah.
So it really depends. I love to say, believe it or not, 2 years. In 2 years, you should see a significant improvement. It's not going to happen overnight. Maybe it'll happen in a year for you if you have a lot of connections already and you're starting out. But really, for people to get to know who you are and what you do, and you just start building that reputation, I feel like, and you can correct me if it's wrong for designers, I feel like a good 2 years is really what you need to invest in getting a sustainable business.
Are you dreaming of launching your own interior design business, but feeling totally overwhelmed by where to start? I get it. There's so much to figure out. Business structure, branding, contracts, clients. It's enough to stop you before you even begin. That's why I created Launch Your Business Bootcamp, an 8-week course designed to take you from confused to confident. Each week, I guide you step by step through setting up your business, building your brand, creating your client process, and launching with clarity and support. I'm holding your hand the entire way. You don't have to figure this out alone. If you're ready to finally turn your passion into real, profitable business, join me and a group of like-minded creatives in the next session this summer. Spots are limited, so sign up now at rwarddesign.com/launchyourbusinessbootcamp. Your business won't launch itself, so let's do this together. I agree. I think that's typically what I tell people too. In my mentorship program is like, you can't really expect a lot out of their first 2 years, like for your income, which is challenging too for people who are switching careers, which is common for interior design. So they're going from being a salaried worker to having their own business. So oftentimes they are going to need to supplement that by working somewhere else as they're building their business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you can always start a side hustle.
Mm-hmm.
Start, your interior design business on the side for 2 years as you're working another job. That's possible too, as you build your reputation and build your business.
Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of the best way because you're, I mean, the benefit, like I didn't have a mentor when I was starting out, but the benefit of having a mentor is you don't have to stumble along as much as maybe I did for the first 2 years of figuring, but you are going to go through this growing process of just learning the curves of being a business owner. And there is a lot of learning to be done, regardless if it's handed to you in a nice PDF or if it's like something that you're learning the hard way. Oftentimes you can feel overwhelmed, especially those first 2 years. What are some recommendations for mastering their finances and just really taking a look at it and even trying to understand how to set their pricing and everything for their clients?
That's a biggie. It's a lot of issues. I worked with a couple of interior designers one-on-one who were already in business for a few years. They were struggling with their pricing. For instance, the one girl, she was struggling making a profit. She had been in business for a long time. Gosh, I think it was over 10 years.
Oh.
And she had a partnership and then partners dropped off. Then it was just her. But what we ended up doing is what I call my profitability blueprint. And when we looked at her blueprint and we realized why wasn't she making money, it had to do a lot with her pricing.
Mm.
And a lot of times we love to say what I'm worth, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I'm worth that, or people aren't going to pay that. That's what I hear often is my clients making decisions for their clients of what they think they will or will not pay.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not always wrong, right? They're not always wrong. But interior designers I've worked with charge $250 an hour before they feel like, oh, maybe more than that might be a little much.
Mm-hmm.
So I helped this one client go from, because she had a team as well, we went from an hourly pricing to a hybrid model.
Mm-hmm.
So from what I understand, interior designers, like, especially if you're working with new construction, it could go on for a long time.
Right.
So they need to protect themselves when they're going with a package deal.
Mm-hmm.
So what we developed for her was the beginning part, the design part, before the implementation and all of that. She had a package price. And then from that point on, during construction, she had a retainer where she would do her $250 an hour. So she was able to increase the design package price and really create more of an income in that piece while keeping the hourly rate the same for the rest of it. And what I often find with the bigger designers that have team is they're not always factoring in the project management, the administrative stuff, all the other things that are tied to what they do and how they help their clients.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that is hard. I think that's where a lot of the mindset comes in, is that understanding that you can charge more, people will pay it, but maybe you wouldn't pay it.
Right.
It's like coming from your own economic status or whatever you've had in your past. I would never pay $100,000 for a designer to completely furnish my home, so you as a designer might not value it, but you're asking other people to value it. So that there's like some kind of disconnect there. Work with people about that. Yeah,
absolutely. 100%. That's every designer I've worked with are like, well, I wouldn't pay what I charge for what I do, but But they're working with doctors and lawyers and the wealthy that can afford that. That's not even batting an eyelash because they don't want to deal with the details.
Right, right.
They don't want to handle the stuff. They don't want to go to a furniture store and pick up their furniture. They don't want to have to figure all that out. They just want the finished end product. They have a lot more money than the designer to pay. So it doesn't matter to them as much. They're looking at more for convenience and efficiency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's important to keep that in mind too when you're selecting product for your client as well. Sometimes you're like, I would never pay $5,000 for a side table, but your client might, and they might appreciate that you brought that option to them. So it's not limiting yourself with your own money hangups before you present it to your client, because you want to give them a luxury service and luxury options if that's what they're looking for.
So I have a funny story of a designer I was working with. There was a guy based in another country, actually. And I was working with them, and he learned a lesson the hard way. In his country, they did it a little different. So he actually got the contractor, right? So somebody came to him. He was a very prominent designer in his country and said, I want you to design this club. It was like a nightclub type club that they had in his country. And he was like, great. So he was in charge of getting a contractor. So the contractor would pay him a 10% commission. So he designed it. They were happy. Went to the contractor, find the contractor. Contractor comes back with pricing. And the designer says, oh, my client's never going to pay this. Just give me a 5% commission and not a 10. So he cut himself out of 5%, and his client didn't bat an eyelash about the price.
You probably could have gotten a full time.
Yes. He's like, I will never do that again. And I'm like, no, please don't.
Yeah.
So that was, an exact example where he was making the decision for his client when he was coming from a total different money mindset than his client was.
Yeah. And what about when problems come up in the projects, and then it's important to be able to have some reserve and being able to fix the problem if it's, it requires the designer to use money to fix the problem to make it go away sometimes. I think sometimes it's hard for a designer to take ownership, first of all, if it is their fault or if it's just like nobody's fault but somebody has to take care of it. And so have you ever run into that kind of situation with your clients?
I don't really, I have run into it, but they usually make their own decisions.
Yeah.
One of my clients was just like, I'm just going to eat this. But there was enough built into her budget that she could, she actually had a storefront. So she's like, I'll just take this thing that they don't like and sell it in my store.
Yeah.
And get them something different, even though they picked it out. So,
oh, yes.
You're laughing, you experienced it. So,
for sure.
So it's like, well, to save face, I guess sometimes you gotta again, that's another reason to build some extra into the budget in case something like that happens.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. Okay, really good. So what are some other takeaways you'd recommend for people getting started in their business just to set themselves up for a long-term success?
Just don't be afraid of numbers, right? Know what your numbers are. Know how much you need to, quote unquote, keep the lights on every month if this is your business, or how much you need to contribute to your family every month as a business owner. And be conscious of that and focus on that. Don't always focus on just the revenue. Focus on the profit. A lot of times we get distracted because social media is always like 6-figure business, multi-6-figure, 7-figure business. They're all talking about the revenue, right? I've seen 7-figure businesses that have no profit, and that does you no good because you are working really hard for 7 figures, doing a lot of work. And if you don't have a profit, what are you working for, right? So just be conscious of your numbers. I always like to say, look at your numbers. The bigger you get, you'll get into it, financial software. Inside my course, I have an Excel spreadsheet that creates a profit and loss for you.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
If you're not to a QuickBooks financial software yet.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people don't even look at their numbers till the year is over, right?
Mhm.
And then I like to say, whether it's a fairy tale or nightmare, there's no way to change it, right? You can't change your story after the story is over, right?
Right.
So by looking at them on a monthly consistent basis, you're going to be able to change things immediately. Business owners are 80% more successful if they look at and understand their financial reports, meaning profit, loss, balance sheets, cash flow statements. They understand that stuff and look at it every single month. They're 80% more successful.
That's
monthly.
a good stat.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes,
that should be convincing. Look at it.
And that's
Yeah.
from the Small Business Administration.
Okay.
So that should be some encouragement to really look at a profit loss, create even a simple profit loss statement for yourself. Yeah.
That's good advice. Okay. That's really good. And then I see in the background your book, She Grows Rich. Tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that.
Yeah. So She Grows Rich, How to Become a Financial Powerhouse. It's available on Amazon. That is all around personal finance and how I grew my wealth from nothing to multi-7-figure net worth. And my journey started very humbly as about 27 years ago, where I had 2 little ones and I was married. I'm still married to the same person. And we brought in $24,000 of income that year and qualified at that time for what was called an earned income tax credit, which is when you're at the poverty line and the government gives you additional money to keep you from being in poverty. That was my wake-up call. I needed to change. And that's actually what ultimately led me to go back and get my accounting degree, because I did not get a degree out of high school. And also just learn more about money and security and building a financial foundation. So it's a how-to and a little bit of my story, as well as I'm doing business financial coaching primarily now.
Yeah.
But I was doing personal financial coaching, and there's a lot of that experiences in the book. So
Okay. Yeah. Well, and your personal financial history and your business one kind of go hand in hand. You bring one to the other. So I think that would be great for everybody to check out and kind of hear that story, and also maybe help their personal finances or help them to aspire to more in their personal life and business as far as their financial goals. So that's great. We'll put a link to that as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. So besides the book, where can people find you? Where do you like to hang out if they have questions or want to work with you?
So my website is audreyfaustconsulting.com, and there's a bunch of free resources, including the workbook I discussed. There's a book portal that if you get the book, you can go to this portal, and there's all kinds of there's a money mindset training inside the portal. There's calculators that go with the book and all kinds of great things in there. Business financial literacy on Instagram and Facebook. And I also have a YouTube channel that you can find all good things there.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Audrey. It's been great to talk to you. So much insight, and always a fresh reminder to keep an eye on what we're telling ourselves with our financial
100%.
our hangups and what we're just really believing about ourselves. So that's great. Well, thank you for coming on today.
Thanks, Rebecca. I had a great time.
So if you enjoyed what Audrey had to say today, you might enjoy her book, She Grows Rich, and I'm definitely going to check it out. You can find all of her contact information and links to her book in the show notes. And don't forget about Launch Your Business Bootcamp. We'd love to see you in there and get your business from zero to launched and ready to go, designing your heart away by the end of summer. So let's do this. That's all I have for you this week. Next week, we'll have another great episode. And until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.